Well, hello. Thank you for coming. And really excited to have Paul Wheaton here. Well, here, I'll read you the little bio. That's him dancing.
Poorly.
So, Paul Wheaton is a powerful advocate of permaculture. He was dubbed the Duke of Permaculture by both Jeff Lawton and Sepp Holzer, and the bad boy of permaculture by Occupy Monsanto, which must have been a proud moment.
Yes. I got, so Sepp Holzer summoned me one day. He was in Montana, but he was like, I don't know, 3 hours away or 4, and I got summoned. I was told I have to go. Sepp Holzer says I have to be there. And of course, then you just like, I guess I have to drop everything and go. So I went, and and apparently they made this thing for me. And so I got that. I thought that was pretty fun.
Oh,
That was super cool. So Sepp presented that to me. I don't know if Sepp's ever given anybody else an award. I've got an award from Sepp. I don't know. It's cool when your heroes give you awards.
Oh, well, yeah. So you're the owner of Permies.com, which is, I mean, that site is huge.
1.8 million people per month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's a wonderful community. I mean, it's like if you ever have a bad day, like somebody has been mean to you or something like that, and then you just have thousands of people say lovely things. It's so nice. And when we want to talk about things, it's like I just feel like the topics are so good. They say forums are dead, but I don't think they've been to mine.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. So someone who works with you reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to give away copies of your book on my blog, and I said sure. And I said, well, could I read the book first? And so you sent me a copy, and here it is. Yep. And I loved it.
I read your review. That was an amazing review. Wow.
No, I loved it. People contact me every day, like, oh, we have something we want to give you. You know, can you review it? And Cecilia deals with those. This is my assistant, my bookings manager, Cecilia. And so Cecilia deals with all of those. And I tell her, just, sorry, just hit delete. Like, you can't answer them all. I'm sorry, I can't, there's no time. But I loved this. So I think my followers know if I tell them, they know they're getting an honest review of something, because I so rarely review stuff, except books. I like, love books. So anyway, I love the book.
Oh, good. I want to ask you a question. I know I'm here today to be asked questions, but let me ask you a question for just a moment. Because you've read the book. You clearly read the whole book, which is amazing.
Read the whole thing.
We send the book out to people, and they clearly don't read it.
Oh, no, I read it. I got all the way to, I can't believe it, but I'm very excited that I hope one day I have a dry outhouse. That's right up near the end.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Now, as the Zero Waste Chef, you are devoting a large part of your life to trying to solve global problems. So you're hip deep into this. And so let me ask you, if 100 million people read my book, and I'll grant that this is every author's dream, I would have 100 million people read their book. But if 100 million people read my book, do you believe that most of the world's... Oh, what was that?
That was someone.
Okay.
I think everyone's muted. I mean,
all right.
Yeah, someone
all
went
right.
up.
So if 100 million people just read my book, with no obligations about doing anything, but they simply read it, do you believe that most of the world's global problems would shrivel up and blow away?
Well, they're just reading it. They're not actually doing anything.
I'm not obligating them to do anything, because of course the thing about the book is to have a more luxuriant life. And so it's like, I'm not trying to shame them into doing things
Right,
or
right. No,
pressure them. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, if they just simply read the book, I imagine some of them might think I'm going to go do some things. And some of them might think that I will do some things some other day. Um, but the thing I'm fishing for, the question I'm putting in front of you is, if 100 million people read the book, do you think that most of the world's global problems would shrivel up and blow away?
well,
Edge case. Look, I'm reading edge case all over your face. Like what's on your face is maybe.
well, it would get people thinking if they don't do the stuff, right? And then if they do start to do even like a couple of things in here, I think they're going to want to continue and do even more. And yeah, I mean, it would solve a huge number of problems if everybody was doing what you were doing. Yeah.
Well, I don't want anybody to think that they're obligated to.
No,
I
no,
don't.
I know. And you're
Yeah.
really good about that in the book. Yeah, you're not preachy at all. And you don't shame. I don't think you are.
I tried
You,
to not be. I tried to basically say, like, rather than putting out the motivation of like, we're all going to die, you better do something now or else, rather than saying anything like that, I tried to present each item as if, like, if for this thing you'll save like $1,000, and for this other thing you might be less sick, and for this other thing it'll just be nice. It'll be like this luxuriant, nicety.
oh, yeah.
Um, so I'm trying to. I'm thinking that that human motivation is based on self-interest, and so it's like, if and I kind of feel like most books that might be attempting something like what I wrote about, that the theme of the book is like, well, you're going to have to be cold, damn it, because if you don't stop using all this heat, we're all going to die. So you better just be really cold, okay? And I kind of, or you gotta start eating sawdust more, okay? That's the solution right there. Sawdust with a spoon. Things things that are sacrifice. And I'm thinking, like, we left out all the sacrifice stuff.
Oh,
Everything
yeah,
in
yeah.
there is,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, in my notes here, I have sacrifice. That's one of my things I was going to ask you about, but you just covered it. Yeah, no, people, yeah, you can't just tell them, oh, stop doing X, Y, and Z. You have to tell them what's in it for them.
Yeah, and I think that if a person does some things and they're like, "Ooh, this is nice. I saved a bunch of money, and now things are way easier for me and luxuriant and cool." And then the neighbor sees that, and it's like, "Well, I want all that coolness too." And so then they start doing it also. So I guess that's where I'm kind of going with it, is that if there's enough people that have read the book and start doing these things. And I also kind of feel like, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube videos with me in them, but
Yeah,
it
I've seen
seems
some.
okay. So a lot of times these things. So in one of the things, I'm doing a presentation, and somebody in the audience said something that suggests that they didn't believe what I was saying. And I think the thing I said is that to control slugs, use a pile of rocks. And somebody in the audience was not believing that, not buying that for a second. And then I said, it's snake habitat. And then so the snakes move in and then they eat the slugs. And oh, well, then that's obvious. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of stuff that that is, once you've heard it, I mean, I think you'll think that everything in the book, now that you've read it, it's all obvious stuff now. But before reading the book, I imagine that 90% of that stuff you've never even heard of before.
Yeah. I feel the same way about things like fermentation. I mean, the first time I made sour cream, I thought, really? That's all you do? Like, how did I not know this? It's easier than going to the store. You take some cultured buttermilk and you stir it into some half and half and you let it sit. And then the next day you have sour cream. And I like how you talk about all the stuff you do. It lets you be lazier.
I I think a lot of it is about being lazier. Yeah, and now I wonder if there's a feature in Zoom. There used to be, but they keep changing Zoom all the time. I wonder if there's a thing so that people could hold their hand up so we could see.
Oh, yeah, I've read about it, but I don't know how it works.
I wonder if I can put my
Does
hand up.
anyone know? I need to go.
If anybody knows, put your hand up. I'm not. Oh, there's a hand. See it? Look, there's a couple of them. Look, there they are.
Go to more.
I wish to go to more. There's a voice in my head saying go to more. And yet, oh wait, there's raise hand. I see raise hand. Look, I'm raising my hand. Am I like
I think my niece raised her hand and I got so excited I accidentally put it down. I'm sorry.
See, now I'm lowering my hand and I'm raising my hand and it's like I'm waving. Okay, now I forgot what I was going to ask. Oh wait, no. How many of you have now read my book, or at least read a little bit of it?
That's a good question. Yeah. Who's read the book? So 2,000 people downloaded the book.
Yes.
I was confused. I thought it was 200, but Paul had actually given me a choice, either 200. No, wait. As many.
Yeah, I gave you the choice of saying either 200, or I'd give you a magic link, and it would be as many people as could do it in 24 hours. And you chose that. And then 2,000 people did that.
Yeah. So that's great.
So only a handful of people have now read my book. Okay. I didn't know that. I was assuming that like a lot of people have. The other thing is that I was kind of hoping, like I said something to you about like, well, it would be nice if people went out to Goodreads and wrote like a good review, but I think they have to finish reading the book first. But okay, I'm ready to answer the questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer the questions.
Okay. Well, I have a few questions. Let's see. So you live in a community, is that right?
Let's say that is true. I mean, some people might argue, I mean, community is a broad word, but yes, there are many people who share this house with me.
Okay. And you grow, what, 90% of your food?
I would say right now, we're growing maybe 15% of our food.
Oh, okay.
And so we are not to 90% yet. We are in an area where, like, for example, I have two properties, and the property that I'm sitting on right now is a giant rock. It's just like you walk outside, you're looking at the bedrock. It's like rock was carved away to stick a house on it, kind of a thing. The other property has the deep soils, and but it also has deer. It has a lot of deer. So this year, a lot of work has been put in on building to fence off 1 acre out of 200, so that way we can grow food without just feeding the deer. And then here, we call it, this property, we call it Base Camp, the big rock. We've actually carried dirt from the other property to here to have gardens. And so we do have food that we're growing here. And we've got food planted at both sites that the deer tend to not like as much. And so we do have food. But we're working on here at Base Camp with where we brought in a bunch of dirt. We're trying our best to convert it into soil this year, and all those techniques.
So has COVID slowed that down?
I would say no.
Yeah.
We're pretty rural. I mean, it slowed us down in that we had the COVID here back in March. Um, Although, the government would insist that we didn't, but we did. And so we were all down for about a month with it. So that kind of set us back a little bit, but it was also March. And so this is Montana. And so there's a lot of snow for a lot of that. Um, but in general, we work all year long on a variety of projects, so it did set us back a little bit. But outside of that, no, we're remote enough that not much changes. Our projects are still the same. I mean, we had because we base everything. Our velocity is based on how many people are here.
Close to my face, but not burn me. I wanted to be close to my face, but not burn my hands.
Uh-oh, somebody's unmuted.
So
Someone's got a hot mic.
There they go. All right. So maybe we would have more people out here now if it weren't for COVID.
Yeah. But day-to-day life is probably kind of hasn't changed that much.
I would say it really hasn't changed at all. I did go 2.5 months without a trip into town, because we just don't need to go into town very often anyway. So everybody else is talking about masks and 6 feet and stuff like that, and I don't have to worry about that really.
Yeah. Well, so you're back to your book. Instagram, the subtitle caused a little bit of controversy.
Ooh.
Some people were angry at being told not to be angry.
Well, I've heard some people say those things. I've received, I think, 3 emails saying that my book is the most evil book that could possibly be published today. And their justification for it was that the authors of these notes are people that their whole lives are about not only being angry at the bad guys, but trying to rally others to also being angry. And I kind of feel like the book is about things that you can do instead of being angry at bad guys. But I don't think I'm saying don't do that. Don't be angry at the bad guys. I think that for a lot of people, I think we'd be in a real pickle if there weren't people out there being angry at the bad guys. I mean, Greta, her whole thing is about being angry at the bad guys. Boy, she can deliver a stink eye. Wow, she's got mad skills in that department. I remember somebody telling me that Gandhi had 1 million detractors, and I was recording a podcast with Jeff Lawton, who is a Muslim, and then he was talking about haters, and he was saying Jesus Christ had haters and they killed him. And so it's kind of like I think that if you're going to accomplish things, it's unavoidable.
Right,
And for something like this, maybe some of it is people whose profession is to hate, their profession is to be angry at bad guys, and maybe some of them also are employed by the bad guys to say this book is terrible. Don't look at this book. Okay.
Oh, okay. Someone is asking about Hugel culture. I was so excited when I read about Hugel. I've never heard of it. I love the word Hugel culture. I keep saying it. I'm driving crazy going on about Hugel culture.
The first time I ever learned the word was back in 2005, and I was taking my first permaculture design course, and then we were walking for like an hour to some field. And along the way, somebody just started this kind of weird chant of Hugel culture, Hugel culture. So next thing you know, we're all walking and chanting the Hugel culture. I just thought that was hilarious. But yes, it's a fun word and it's a fun thing.
So could you just explain it a little bit exactly, like for people who haven't read the book?
It is soil on wood. as the wood rots, it provides parking spaces for nutrients and water. If you build a hugelkultur that is 7 feet tall, that you and then you do all the steps, you won't need to irrigate your garden anymore.
So it's like a raised bed, kind of, right?
It is. It's a raised bed that is raised higher than most raised beds.
Right, right. Yeah, I watched your video on hugelkultur. Well, I put it in my blog post on the book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's a pretty old video. I think that I made that in 2012.
Oh, so you might have some new ones?
I
It was
made,
good.
there's one I made like 2 years ago that's showing off some of the hugelkulturs we have here. But we have some that are like 11 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they're, they have a lot of food growing in them, even though they're exposed to deer. And a lot of it, and the soil's not done yet. Because what you're supposed to do is you build your hugelkultur bed, and then you have to irrigate it like a regular garden the first year. Well, we never did that. We just haven't gotten around to it yet. And so everything that was growing in it was growing there without irrigation. And it hadn't gotten any irrigation for years. It's just, this is what, we did plant some things in it. And I think part of the tour showed like, here's a potato plant. We haven't planted potatoes in here for a couple of years, but they keep coming back.
Oh, wow.
And then here's rhubarb, which we did plant like 4 years earlier, and it's loving it. And, you know, different things. And then of course there's stuff like lamb's quarters, which we never planted. It is of course in this area a weed, and but it's an edible weed, and we do eat it. We eat a lot of it, actually. Things like that. I think I pointed out sunchokes. Sunchokes are great because they'll put up with the worst sort of abuse and still pump out food. They are the creator of the highest calories per acre. So they're a very abundant food, and they're perennial. They just keep producing more and more year after year. Some people struggle to get rid of them if they don't like them anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah, perennials. I planted fruit trees in, I don't know, 2003, I guess. And then, you know, they take a few years to bear fruit, but then, you know, you get food for nothing. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm in Northern California. So, you know, fruit trees do well here.
We plant a lot of fruit trees from seed or pit. So like, oh, we just ate a bunch of cherries. Let's take the pits out and stick them in the ground.
Oh, great.
And we have a lot of, there's probably about 40 apple trees really close to the house that are all started from seed. Yeah.
That saved you a fortune.
I think so. Yeah. There's a lot of misinformation about starting fruit trees from seed, and it's going to be a bit of a gamble, and there's going to be, you know, other issues. But it's like, on the other hand, for example, an apple tree has a taproot as long as you don't transplant it. So I imagine all the apple trees that you have were transplanted, and so they're not going to have a taproot. Mm-hmm. But because I started mine from seed and haven't transplanted them, they will have a taproot. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of advantages to starting from seed, but the one thing that is for certain is that, for example, one of the trees you may have planted was Macintosh. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, good, I want to have Macintosh apples. I do enjoy a good Macintosh apple. And it is not possible for me to get a Macintosh from seed. I might eat a Macintosh apple and plant those seeds, but of course, each of those will be different, just as siblings are all different from their parents. So it'll have the attributes of the Macintosh and the attributes of whatever the other parent is, whatever the father is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So now there's a misconception that only one apple tree out of 20,000 will produce a fruit that's any good when you grow from seed. But the reality is that only one out of 20,000 will produce a fruit that will outcompete Macintosh in the open market. So there's certain attributes that Macintosh has, and then it's like it'll only be one out of 20,000 that would be better than that by those metrics. So in the meantime, you can get an apple that will be a really good eating apple, but it won't have very good shelf life. You might get an apple that's a really good applesauce apple, but it's not good for much else. And then, of course, 20% of them are going to be spitters, and that's going to be fruit that you're not going to really want. Although the spitters are the ones that people make the hooch out of.
Oh.
Although I'm not much of a hooch person, but those that are like, oh yeah, I'll take those. Those are the best.
Oh, good to know. All right, I had another question. So someone from Instagram asked me if you don't have an apartment, or sorry, if you don't have a backyard, like say you're
Right.
living in an apartment, say you have the permaculture dream and you want to get the land and be like Gert in the book. But right now you're living in an apartment and you'd like to grow some food, you have a balcony. So what can people do in that situation? What would you tell them?
I know that there are people that do the balcony thing, that do the potted plants. I don't do much of those in the way of food. We have a few house plants here at my house, but nothing that's indoors for food. There's other people that have done a lot in that space, and I haven't kept up. I do want to say that because I'm used to, like, once the moment you said apartment, I thought, oh, I've been asked this question 100 times before, and it's like,
I knew I'd ask you questions that you've been asked 100 times before.
so I thought what you were going to ask is like, is there anything in the book for people that live in apartments?
Oh, there is.
Oh yeah, I would say half of the book is for people in apartments, and the other half of the book is for people that live in apartments, and I wish them to understand it, even though they might not do it right away. And I think it's good to know these things, much like how, like, I think everybody who lives in an apartment probably knows what a nuclear reactor is, but they don't own one. But they do know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, nuclear reactor, yeah, I have a vague idea. It makes power, electricity and stuff. And they know that it makes power and electricity and stuff, but they don't own one. And it's kind of like, well, if you're in an apartment and you don't have a backyard, I'd still like to get the opportunity to tell you about some of these things in the book that involve a backyard, and then you'll know about them because it solves a lot of the world's problems. And so I wish for you to know about these things just like how you know about what is a nuclear reactor, even though you don't own one.
Right. Makes sense.
So now, along those lines, another one is that, of course, I talk about rocket mass heaters. And
I was just going to say that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good segue into rocket mass heaters.
So I think an important thing is like our carbon footprint is 30 tons per adult in the United States. And a lot of people, when they start thinking about how do I reduce my carbon footprint, I think most people, their first thought is about light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have a chapter in there about how, no, it isn't about light bulbs at all, really. It's kind of the opposite. But their next thought is that sometimes they think about how can I reduce my carbon footprint while they're on their commute to work? And they see the exhaust of these other cars, and they think, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna buy a Tesla. I'm going to save up, and I'm going to buy a Tesla. And that way I'm going to reduce my carbon footprint. Well, it's true, it does reduce your carbon footprint, but out of that 30 tons, it reduces your carbon footprint 2 tons.
Mm.
So not a huge win. However, if you live in a cold climate like Montana, probably not as much in Northern California. Well, depending on where you are, probably not as much in the Bay Area or Silicon Valley. But in Montana, for sure, is definitely a cold climate. And there's a lot of the United States that's in this cold climate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you switch from electric heat to a rocket mass heater, that will cut your carbon footprint by 27 tons. And so now a rocket mass heater is a wood burning thing. And I have to say that because I sent my book off to be reviewed by some people that had big names in the environmental movement.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people wrote back and they hated the book because it advocated for rocket mass heaters. And they said, you know, how dare you write a book that advocates the use of petroleum fuels or fossil fuels? And I think what happened is they didn't read the book and they saw a rocket mass heater and they thought, maybe, my guess is they thought it was running on rocket fuel.
Yeah, that must be.
It's called a rocket mass heater because of the sound it makes when it runs. And but no, it's a wood burning thing.
That uses very little wood.
It uses, it'll use. I imagine where you are, probably, if you were to like get 3 boxes from Amazon that were like, I don't know, I'm trying to say about this big, you know, medium-sized, larger boxes, and then whatever twigs naturally fell off your trees in the yard, you threw them into the box. That when winter comes around, you'd probably burn those 3 boxes of wood and then the boxes themselves, and that would be enough to heat your home to a warmer temperature than whatever you set it right now in order to try and save a little bit of energy. Because like you probably keep your house, when wintertime rolls around, I'll bet you keep your house pretty cool to try to save a little bit of energy.
Yeah, mine's high 60s.
Yeah, 68 is, for people who are trying to like save a little bit, 68 seems to be pretty normal. At 68, you can still type and work, and you wear a sweater, and you can, so 68 seems to be pretty normal. But of course, we'd all love it to be more like 75, and then, you know, don't do the sweater kind of a thing. And so now with a rocket mass heater and those twigs, 75 is easy. 75 is great. You know, you've got way too many twigs, and Amazon keeps sending those damn boxes. Now, of course, as the zero waste chef, you are probably finding paths to live your life without those boxes. And so you have fewer of those boxes. But I would say that from the perspective of zero waste, I mean, we've got our recycle bin, and then, I mean, I know at my house, we have a bin for burnables, which includes things that are not recyclable. So for example, the pizza box. If you have a pizza box, that would be not recyclable, but it's compostable. But even better than composting would be to burn it. Because that grease that's on the box, that's fuel. Whereas for recycling, it's like, oh no, that grease has ruined that box. But of course, in the world of zero waste, there's an even better solution.
Oh, well,
so,
yeah, we make our pizza.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
We had sourdough pizza on the weekend. So yeah.
In the book, I make a point of talking about the pizza box,
mm-hmm.
and how it's kind of like step one, because some people were saying like, well, just don't order pizza. And my response to that is, first, I want you to have the most luxuriant possible life. And if that means ordering in pizza, I insist you must order in that pizza. It's like we got to figure this out and solve all of this stuff while, moving the lever for luxuriance up. And so if you want pizza and you're not going to make it yourself, get it delivered. But of course, how can we make it? So if somebody doesn't make pizza, they're like, they just don't want to. It's inconvenient to them or whatever. They wish for it to be delivered. That's where I kind of start talking about how do you get 20 people to live under one roof without stabbing each other? And if you do that, I'll bet at least 3 people love to cook pizza.
Yeah.
And then you'll probably every third day you're going to have pizza. You'll have so much pizza. You'll never want pizza delivered again because the stuff that's here is better. And on top of that, it's brought to you before you even think about having it delivered.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk a lot about community. So I lived in an intentional community until COVID.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, for 15 years. Well, so this is in the heart of Silicon Valley. And like you said, community has a lot of different definitions, but yeah, it's an intentional community. It's part of affiliated with a church, which is basically meditation and yoga.
Okay.
And there's a community kitchen, and so people cook vegetarian meals in there 4 nights a week. And you can cook if you want. You don't have to. You get a discount on your meals. The food's really good. So yeah, people who like to cook will cook. Other people will clean, and yeah, I loved it. And then COVID hit, and I got stranded in Canada at my mom's. And my partner moved all my stuff out of the community for me, and now I'm at his house and trying to figure out what to do. So, but yeah, I loved the community, and one of my neighbors is on here, or at least she was. I don't see her now.
15 years in an intentional community. Yeah. That is proof that is an excellent community.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, my kids had other kids to play with when they were growing up. If I needed to, go to the doctor or something, I'd say, I'd have just text a neighbor, like, can you look after Charlotte, Mary, Catherine? And yeah, sure, send them over. Yeah, and then, when you go outside, you see like these lovely people that you want to talk to, and
they want to talk to you.
They want to talk to you. Yeah, no, I loved it. And there are community gardens there.
Did you find, like, compared to somebody that did not somebody else that lived in the general area but did not live in the community, your interest in driving somewhere was probably far less, because they're probably thinking like, oh, I got to get out of the house, I'm going to go to a restaurant. And whereas you're kind of like, no, I'm good here. In fact, there's so many people. It's like to visit with, to eat with, and it's like, sometimes you think like, oh, I want to try something different for once, and it's like, oh no, there's something really that other person is going to cook tonight, and they always do something really different, and so there's always, there's the depth of culture, the depth of interesting and delicious is, you're already there. You're living there in all of the things that you might possibly seek with going out. And therefore your car is parked.
Oh yeah. Well, and so plus it was in such a great location. I ride my bike. I tried, I wasn't driving my car much anyway, but yeah, that's true. Like if we wanted to have a night out, we just go to someone else's unit. It's great for New Year's and things like that. Just, you don't have to worry about driving.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. No, I loved it. Yeah, I highly recommend it. If anybody's interested in living in an intentional community, there's a website, ic.org, and it lists intentional communities all over the world. And there are all sorts of different communities. There can be co-housing or eco-villages. Um, they can be big, they can be small. You can have your own unit, or some of them are communes. Um, yeah, the paper once described ours as a zombie sex cult, but it wasn't nearly that exciting. Yeah, it was great. It was great when the kids were little. Yeah, I would say all the time, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't live here, because I had so much help and support. Yeah, we're totally different, because Silicon Valley is such a jungle. So dog eat dog here, and that place is an oasis.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now, before too many people get the wrong idea, I'm going to state that what you experienced was more the exception than the norm.
Oh, really? The people
I'm
getting along?
I have visited a lot of intentional communities, and the drama factor can be a little bit high. Um, I mean, I'm going to guess that of all the people that are watching or listening or actively participating, I'm going to guess that 90% of these people have, at some point in their life, uh, shared a house with others, and and they have. There's a reason why they don't currently share a house with others,
Yeah.
and so they've experienced some of this drama, and I think intentional communities are a space where people are trying to get past the drama, but there are some people that are drama queens, let's say. And so it makes it so that I would say that of the communities that continue to exist for more than 2 years, which is generally considered a success, when you visit a lot of those communities, you can't find anybody in them that's been there for longer than 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And so it's unusual for a community to have people that are there for more than 2 years. And so when you said 15 years, I'm like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
magic, you've been there.
Oh, well, some of them, like there's
Oh yeah,
a couple that manages it, and they've been there like maybe since the 80s, late 80s.
there. So
Probably.
there are. You go to ic.org. There are a lot of communities that are forming, and there's a lot that are less than 2 years old.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
And
good
then,
to
I mean,
know.
there's still quite a few. I mean, like in all of the United States, there's probably 100 communities that are 15 years old or older. I'm just guessing.
That's it? Wow.
But
There are
then,
thousands of communities.
yeah, see, now there you go. Driving my point home, and it's like it it gets into stuff about the decision making model and things like that. But I think I feel like one of the things I wish to try to figure out is like, is there a recipe for community that will work for more people? I'm going to speculate that at your particular community that there were a lot of people that I'm going to, without even having met them, I'm going to label them as noble, because when you've got several really noble people, you can make community really work well. And what happens is that most communities are being put together with people that fall short of noble, and the drama happens, which is why everybody has these experiences of, like, when they were young, trying to live with their friends in a shared house, and now
Oh,
they
yeah,
don't do
that's
that
hard.
anymore. Yeah, you're making this face. Yes, that face that you made. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We should answer some people's questions.
Okay. Okay. I'm just excited because of you lived for a community in a community for 15 years. That's super
yeah.
exciting to me.
Oh, I loved it. My dream would be to have like a permaculture community type of place and have people come. Oh,
That sounds like my house.
yeah. Yeah, we had the 20-month party. We wrote about that in the book. You had, when you moved to your property, you said you had a 20-month party with people coming and going. And
We call it the 20-month party because a lot of people did come and there was a lot of drama. And it takes time until you can kind of sort through things and then get to the point where, and there's a lot of people that are kind of like, all you need to do to have more people is to lower your standards. And I'm thinking, nope, I'd rather be patient. I'd rather wait. Thank you. But yeah, it's but the 20-month party is a euphemism. All right, what are the questions? Let's talk about more fun things.
Okay. Let's see. Do I have this on right?
Oh, I know. I was going to say something about the rocket mass heaters real quick, and I was trying to get to a thing I was trying to, and that is that some people say that rocket mass heater, you can't have a rocket mass heater because it's not in building codes or insurance companies won't allow it. And first of all, I think right now it's in about half of the building codes. It's in a lot of building codes right now, rocket mass heaters, yeah. And then a lot of insurance companies are really starting to come around. So a lot of insurance companies are saying rocket mass heaters are great.
Oh, good.
And they're coming around. But the point I wanted to make is that rocket mass heaters are kind of in this weird state like marijuana. And of course, with marijuana, what happened is that nobody smoked any marijuana at all, ever, until the government said, okay, we changed our minds, now it's okay. Rocket mass heaters are exactly the same, just like that. No one will, as long as they're against the law, no one's going to build one. Just because it saves you thousands of dollars a year and it makes your home far warmer and luxuriant and it's a way to use the twigs that fall on your yard. That's not enough of a reason. You want to wait until all of the building codes in your area say it's okay and your insurance company says it's okay. All of those things, just like what you did with the marijuana. Yeah.
Okay.
Just wait until everybody says it's okay.
Okay. Well, hopefully soon. So someone here said, I don't know if she is still on here, said you have to protest. That seems the way that gets change. Which, yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been to protests. So you can do, I think you can protest and you can, grow vegetables. You can march and then come home and work on your garden. Someone is asking, what role does husbandry play in your permaculture village?
I'm going to say that, like let's say you have because there's many styles of doing intentional community, and one of them could be a village, and it could be a permaculture village. So you might have 20 or 30 people that share a piece of land, and maybe 4 or 5 of them conduct some form of animal husbandry. And so I think a great example would be if somebody were to raise beef cattle, they might have at least 5 head because they are a herd animal. So less than 5 is not okay. But, and then they could do a paddock shift system through the property, including people's gardens. And they get a lot more activity in their garden if they allow the pulsing of the ruminants through the garden. I hope that answers the question.
Actually, they asked about husbandry.
When I hear husbandry, I think animal husbandry.
Oh, okay.
Is there another definition of husbandry?
I don't know. I don't know anything.
Are they suggesting that I should get a husband?
This is a great question.
Okay.
Okay. Where is the practical line between being a consumer and a producer? So this is my niece. I knew she's gonna ask this.
Okay.
So, at what point is it not practical to do everything yourself? So,
I wish to enter in a third point.
okay.
So you've got the consumer and you have the producer. And then in my book, I propose Gert. Because Gert's not really a producer or a consumer. So Gert, in the book, I paint a picture. And in the world of permaculture, there are many schools of thought under the permaculture umbrella. And I think a lot of people come to permaculture from gardening. And then quite a few kind of get really hyper focused on like farming. And I'm not advocating farming. I don't advocate farming. I advocate gardening. And even more than that, I would advocate gardens, which implies community. And so there's going to be many gardens, each garden with a gardener. And so you have a community of gardeners. But Gert, the story of Gert, which is one of the chapters, actually, I think the story of Gert is a section in the deviant financial strategies chapter. So then with Gert, what I propose is something where she's got her humble home and she has her massive gardens. And I say as part of the thing, like, if I give Gert $1 million and she changes nothing in her life, everything in her life is exactly the same, except now she has $1 million tucked away somewhere. I propose that Gert is therefore a permaculture millionaire, because she is at the ultimate. She is at her destination.
Yeah, before you give her the $1 million, she's already there. Yeah.
She's already there.
Yeah, the $1 million doesn't change her life.
So and Gert has big enough gardens that she grows 90% or more of her own food, and there are some people who come and take some of her excess in exchange for a couple of bucks. And I also believe that when you live a life where you're doing what you love, a little bit of money comes in. And so in the scenario, I also introduce Ferd, who has a worky job, and he has a certain amount of money coming in each year. And the amount of money he has stored in the bank or wherever is less than what Gert has, even though Gert's income is trivial compared to Ferd's. So the question is like, where is the line drawn between being a producer and a consumer? And now I've complicated matters deeply by introducing Gert, who is kind of neither. She doesn't produce for others much. She doesn't consume much. She's kind of in her own little place where her needs are small, and because she's got a magnificent garden and she's got a lovely humble home. I don't know. I've kind of pooped all over your question rather than answering it. Is there something? Is there still a place to go here, or is this good enough? Is it your niece? Did you say? Is your niece satisfied?
Oh, let me see. What do you think, Danielle? So my niece and her husband just closed on a property today. It's their first home. It's a tiny cabin in Maine, right on the border of New Brunswick, and they have 15 acres. And so Danielle watches your videos and on living off the grid and stuff. So,
lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 acres is nice. That'll be plenty for especially for vegans. But yeah, a few chickens and a few hogs, that'd be great.
Oh, she says yes, she's satisfied and she appreciates your answer.
Okay, good. She's on her way to gratitude.
She is. She is, yeah. So, well, oh, she's gonna have pigs, gardens, and mushrooms.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Now and then now the stuff that she the kitchen scraps, instead of going to a compost pile, they're going to go to the pigs and the chickens.
Yeah.
And so I suggest there's a bucket for the pigs and a bucket for the chickens, because there's some things the pigs like that the chickens don't like, and vice versa.
Now, my older daughter's working on a farm right now in northern Ontario. Kind of, well, I mean, it's not really north, but compared to Toronto, it's north. Everything up there is much colder.
The Great White North.
Yeah. And yeah, she fed the pigs yesterday, and she said they'll eat just about anything. So.
It's true. It's true. You got to be careful with pigs. You want to keep moving them around, because in fact, if you have a pond that leaks, you can drain all the water out of the pond and then feed pigs there for a week, and the shape of the pig's hooves will seal the pond. And because they've got very pointed hooves, and it packs things super, super tight. That's how pigs make a wallow to stay cool, because they don't have sweat glands. And so they make a little puddle, and they're so it's like, oh, it hasn't rained for weeks, but this pig's got a little wallow still. How did that happen? And it's like, yeah, they use their hooves to kind of seal. And the flip side of it is that you don't want them to go out and spend too much time out in your field, because now water might not be able to work its way in because the pigs were there.
Oh, well, thank you. She said they have a leaky pond.
Oh, great. Seal it with the pigs.
Well, it's 2:04.
All right. You
So
want to do so I'm gonna do the thing. Oh, yeah, Fernanda still has her hand up. But okay. The number one thing that it's like, I think it's the poster child for the book for people who live in apartments.
Oh, okay.
And it's like it's I think it's great because it adds luxury, it saves you money, and it dramatically reduces the toxins in your life, and it saves money again by dramatically reducing your energy bill. And so if we start with the energy bill and hot water, the number one use for hot water is showers.
Mm-hmm.
The average American shower is 7.5 minutes. And so I wish I came up with this name, but somebody else came up with this name, and I just shared it in the book. It's called Going Pooless.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so and speaking of zero waste, what a great one, because and I would say, first of all, right now, I'll bet that in the United States, 10 million people have gone poolless and are loving it.
10 million.
That'd be my guess.
That's a big number.
Yes. And have you tried it yet?
Oh, yeah. Well, so today I used a shampoo bar. I go between a shampoo bar and baking soda, and I do a vinegar rinse. But I haven't done it with nothing.
Okay.
My hair's so greasy.
Now, that's an amazing thing, though. It's like you got to try it for a week of doing nothing.
I've done
now
it
still
for a week.
Go in and take the shower. Take a shower as often as you normally do, or even more often if you want.
Yeah.
And it's like people report that their hair becomes more luxuriant, but you've got to give it the week. You've got to give it the week.
I've given it a week.
Okay, all right.
So I've given it a week because my younger daughter, she had an even better solution. When COVID started, she shaved her head. She said, "Do you think I should shave my head?" And I said, "Well," so I was stuck in Canada at my mom's, and I said, "Well, if you've always wondered what you'd look like bald, now's the time to do it." So she shaved her head. And I said, that's really zero waste. You have no hair. But anyway, now it's growing back in. I mean, she's only 19. It looks super cute. She looked good bald even. So
Well,
I thought COVID's a good time if you want to go poolless. Yeah. COVID's a good time because you're not going out much. But I let mine. I only wash my hair once a week now. But then I went for longer than a week because I was actually, after I read this, I thought, because I mean, I knew about the poolless thing, and I thought, I should really try water because that's what I wash my body with. Although, actually, I use a bit of soap on the, sorry for the TMI, I use a bit of soap on the pits and bits. But just water. I haven't washed with soap everywhere else in years. Just water, because you've got this microbiome all over your body, and you put all these harsh soaps and things on it, and it just strips that away. I mean, I think you say that in here too.
Yes.
But my hair was like an oil slick. Like I used the water, and then like my hands, they're shiny from the oil. Do you think that would get better if I kept at it longer?
I do know that there's about 5% of the people who try it, who give it a real try, where they are not convinced and they go back. But I do think that, and there's some people it takes 2 weeks.
Okay, maybe I'll try 2 weeks.
And it's like, but the key is that 99% of your body funk is water soluble. The function of soap is to make oils water soluble.
Okay.
And so if you had true soap, then, and you've probably used a true soap at some point in your life and didn't really think, you're done, you feel dry and crispy, your skin feels tight. Have you ever experienced this?
Oh yeah, tight, dry skin. Yep.
And then what you want to do is you get this soap that has the lotions in it. And then you use the soap and then you don't feel dry and crisp afterwards. So basically what it's done is it's stripped away. After a week, most people report that they feel that their hair is more luxuriant. And so they feel like there's lots and lots of benefits to the whole poolless thing.
Okay.
And so then what you've done is your shower time, and remember the shower is the number 1 use of hot water.
Yeah.
Then your shower time goes from 7.5 minutes to about a minute to a minute and a half. And you're in there, and I don't know about everybody else, but I just get bored. So I'm not saying be a dirty, stinky hippie who doesn't shower. No, take all the same showers. Take even more showers. It's all good. Shower more. But here's the bizarre thing too, is that after about 3 months of not using pit stick, you no longer need the pit stick. So from a zero waste perspective, there's another big win.
Nope.
We've put a big dent in the energy bill by using so much less hot water, which is a big energy pig. And we've also saved money by buying less stuff. We're also putting less toxic gick on ourselves. And I think in the book, I talked about the guy that emailed me, like I mentioned this, I mentioned poolless in a podcast, and the guy tried it. And after 20 years of daily migraines.
You did. I reread that part this morning.
Every week, he would either vomit from the migraine or black out from the migraine. And by going poolless, it went away. The migraine, after 20 years, was gone.
That's amazing.
So, health benefits and less toxic gick, saving money in a couple of different ways, and possibly for some people the added luxury of sleeping in an extra 5 minutes in the morning.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, with COVID, my hair's gotten so long. Usually it's, like to here. Mm-hmm. So I just dread washing it. It's just too much work. But I'm not ready to shave my head like my daughter. I couldn't pull it off.
All right. Do we have any more questions? I can't see any questions at all.
I have a question. I just don't know how to pose it. Am I supposed to type it somewhere?
Or you can just tell us. Is that?
Well, I'm Emily.
Oh, Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi. I haven't heard of Poulis. I'm sorry, I haven't. I've only just heard of your book, so I have not read it. And I'm not even sure how to spell it. Is it Poolis? I understand it has to do with showering
No,
and no soap or something.
P-O-O. I think I've seen it spelled most commonly as P-O-O hyphen L-E-S-S.
Yeah, so you're not using shampoo. So shampooless, really, but it's just shortened to pooless.
Because
It's
that's funnier.
catchier. Yeah, so just it's not not using shampoo.
All right. Was there more, Emily? I don't. Where did she go?
No, I didn't know. So it's just not using shampoo. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone without showering over a week easily during this shutdown time.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And I don't generally wash my, hair all the time. So I wash it every week or so. And I did hear about the microbiome on the skin. So I've stopped using soap all the time on my skin. There will be times like once in a while I will. So is it just not using soap? You just go in and just use water and maybe a washcloth or something?
I use just water and a washcloth.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for me.
And you
And
said,
I've been doing it for like 7 years now, 8 years, something like that. It's been working great for me. I feel healthier and happier all around.
mm. And you said people often want to have their picture taken with you, and you put your arm around them, and no one has ever said that you're stinky. So
Well, I'm
it works.
a giant, right? I'm disturbingly large. I'm 6.5 feet tall. It's a little
Wow.
freaky. So when people want to get their picture taken with me, their head is basically in my armpit, and it's like I've been to events where there's a line of people wanting to get their picture hanging out in my armpit. So, but I've asked some people, like, because if it comes up and it's like, okay, get right up in here. What do you think, huh? What do you think? Is it all right? I've gotten a green light. Apparently I do not stink.
Oh, good, good. Oh, here someone is saying water only for hair washing works best for folks with soft water. Hard water doesn't work very well for going with water only. Do you know if your water is hard or soft, Paul?
I I don't I don't know. I know that we do have a lot of calcium in our water here, but our water here at my place is magnificent. It's just glorious water. But hey, that's country living, right? Out in the Rocky Mountains.
No, it must be beautiful.
No chlorine,
Oh,
just
nice.
delicious, delicious water, just right out of the tap. It's just wonderful, wonderful, glorious water.
Wow.
Maybe people want to come hang out at my house for a day just to
Yeah,
drink some of the water.
I would. Well, so you have your Wheaton labs, but imagine that you're not doing that right now.
Oh, we
during
totally
COVID.
are. In
You
fact,
are.
the reason why my assistant contacted you about the book is that we were in the middle of doing a Kickstarter. And so she was contacting all these different organizations to try and see if, like, hey, can you let people know about our Kickstarter? But of course, by the time you'd read the book, the Kickstarter was over.
Oh.
And so, which is fine,
Yeah, I was really busy when Jennifer first contacted me. And took me a little while to get back to her.
Right. Nope. All fine. All good. But the thing is that our Kickstarter, which was magnificently funded, was for an experiment, because this is Wheaton Labs. We do experiments all the time. And so this was a rather ambitious experiment. And we begin building it on Monday, so a week from today. And it's for a truly passive greenhouse.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. So we have people, bonus people showing up this week that are going to be participating in the build. Yeah, we're very, very excited. So there's so things are still moving forward. We do lots of things, and I talk about the Wafati design in the book, and we've got one that is getting its finishing touches right now. We have, of course, we have 11 fully functional rocket mass heaters here, each one in a different structure. I don't know, there's just so many different experiments we're doing all the time. I mean, when people come for the tour takes all day because there's so many different things to see of the things that are our experiments.
Wow. Well, I'd love to see all of that.
Come on by.
Yeah, maybe one day when I can travel again. Travel farther than 3 miles. All right. Well, I should let everyone go. It's 2:19. But thank you, Paul. Thank you for giving all of those books to my readers.
I hope that they thoroughly enjoy them, and after enjoying them thoroughly, that they go out to Goodreads and say something nice. And if you're thinking of a 4-star review, remember the book was free, so maybe it's worth that extra star. So,
and you can also go to permies.com if you want more information. Like in the book, this is so condensed. Like you've packed so much information, or not condensed, dense. It's very dense. Like it's tightly written. You really have lots of good information. And then you tell people where to go on permies.com if they want to explore a subject further.
Well, I kind of feel like a large book is an unread book. And so we kind of, at first we were going to, we were going to put this book out, and it was going to be dominantly for our existing audience. And then we got this idea of like, what if we polished it a little bit more, and then maybe it would reach 10 million people or something like that, or 100 million people, and really make a difference. And so we put in more than a year of extra effort to really polish it and condense it. So that way, I mean, we would argue over 5 characters, and to try and make it a little bit tighter and things of that nature. So we really, really, really polished it to make it easy to digest, a quick and fun read, and yet loaded with information. And if there's anything where you feel like I want to learn more about that, we have oodles of footnotes. And the cool thing is that what we tried to do is we tried to think, when we're writing it, it's like, this is 2019. We can do better than what other books do. And so, yeah, you go to a link on Permies, and there we can cite many sources, and we can have a full discussion. And so a lot of those links will go to a thread at a Permies that'll have like 100 people talking about it. Mm-hmm. And so really, and then we only mentioned like a paragraph in the book to just kind of convey the bigger points. So you could just read through the book once. Our audio book, I think, is 5 hours, and that was all professionally done. We hired it out and did it first class all the way.
Yep.
And so that would mean that if you read the book at the rate of reading it out loud, it would take about 5 hours. I think it's 170 pages, so it's a little thinner than most books. So I think that in order to just infect a brain with these general thoughts, I think that it's an easy, nice read. We tried to make it that way, at least.
Oh yeah, it is. It is, and it's funny.
We also tried to make it so that the person reading it probably did not buy the book. And so we were very emphatic that the idea is that somebody would buy a dozen of the books and then hand them out to a dozen different people. And then a lot of times those people have all kinds of political views. And so we wanted to tread very carefully to make it so that
Oh,
the largest possible audience would be comfortable reading this book.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Anybody, yeah, left or right could read this.
Yeah, and so we
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
we were very careful to leave plenty of room for the people that firmly believe that carbon footprint is silly, that there's no point in contemplating your own carbon footprint. And so we said, if we advise at the beginning something about like, then you might want to read this so that when you're talking to somebody that's keen on carbon footprint, that you will be able to tell them how they're doing it wrong. I think that's a powerful motivation for some people. And so it's like, but I do believe that a lot of people who are passionate about carbon footprint, it's like their carbon footprint is 30 tons and they can talk for days about how we all need to cut our carbon footprint. But the most that they're able to do themselves is maybe 1.5 tons out of their 30-ton carbon footprint each year. And so I think that my book gives them all the tools to do far more than that. To
Oh, yeah.
do 100 tons, to cut 100 tons out of their 30-ton footprint easily.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's information on here how to reduce not only your own carbon footprint, but to, actually go in the other direction so you're making up for other people's carbon footprints.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That's pretty exciting. Well, thank you again, Paul.
Thanks for doing this.
I really enjoyed the book, and thanks for coming on here. And I'm glad Zoom didn't act too possessed today. And
Thank
Thanks
you.
for helping me infect more brains.